Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming here and allocating your lunchtime for this session. Today we are just going to look into the details of a kind of new generation that we are somehow seeing around on our campus. So, I just want to with this picture. So, what do you see here? Okay, very old car, maybe. Do you remember the features of it? Maybe kind of. Okay.
Oh, as a start.
Yeah. The wheel, maybe we can just talk about that. And in 1940s, we had a kind of better version. So, and this one, so a little bit more comfortable, we could say. And in 1980s, so it became a little bit larger, a little bit more comfortable. And in 2000, so a kind of eases people's lives, we could say here. And in 2010, so maybe in terms of the features, it is more competent, we could say. And in 2019, so do you know that? Yes. Do you remember? Do you know the features?
Yeah, my brother has one.
Yeah. Yeah, Robin, you know it much better, right? Okay. So it's the self-driver, we could say. So the driver doesn't need to do anything, and the car itself drives. And let's look at the features. So as you see, we have a very big screen inside the car, inside Tesla. And so it's self-driver. So the driver doesn't need to do anything. So what do you see here then? Kind of navigator, we could say. We can even talk to that car. And the car can respond to us as well. So, unfortunately, this is what I could find, Hocam. Yes, this is what we have in our lives as for the technology. We are living in the technology. But what about education? This is just a conference hall from 1970s at Harvard University. And this is what we have right now. Again, this is a conference hall from the US. And when you look at this photo, what really attracts you? So we are seeing kinds of iPads or tablets. So they are even on their faces. So the technology even just changes or shapes their identity as well. So this is what we have right now. Which brings us actually the generations represented today. So we have traditionalists, boomers, Generation X, Millennium or Generation Y, and Generation 2020, Generation Z. So when we look at the traditionalists here, so they went through the Great Depression, World War II, but because of that, they're more disciplined. So born in 1900s and 1945, the boomers, born in 1946 between 1964, so they went through the Vietnam War. They're a little bit more experimental, but the women or civil rights have given rise at that time. So we had a chance to see more women in the workforce. And in Generation X, so they experienced fall of Berlin Wall or Gulf War. And because of that, actually, they are a little bit more independent. And they are free agents. But they started to use mobile phones, not smartphones. Millennium, born 1977, 1997, Generation Y, which is me. And so we somehow have a kind of tendency for community service and immediacy. So we are a little bit impatient. Me, for example, I just want to deal with everything a lot. So I want to do everything from one time to another. And I experience Google and Facebook as well. But what about Generation Z? This is actually what I have been seeing in my classes right now. So they are more optimistic. So they have very high expectations from the university, for example. And they are using apps everywhere. So they are using apps for everything. Social games, I'm seeing my students just playing PUBG, for example. They come together and they say PUBG, so they just interact with each other. They are saying, so we need to do this, etc. And they are using tablet devices. And most importantly, they are using smartphones. Generation Y and Generation Z. So when we look at the differences, so we already have Generation Y in our university. But what about Generation Z? So Generation Y, optimists, but Generation Z, they're really realists, kind of. And they're Generation Y, they are tech savvy. Yes, we can use, for example, technology, but we can just work with 2 screens at a time. But right now, Generation Z, they are tech innate because they were born into the technology, and they are just using 5 screens at a time. They are more influential. Whenever they start using something, they directly influence each other, their peers. So Generation Y, me for example, or my peers, so we just wanted to be discovered. This is why we worked, why we wanted to have success. But Generation Z, so they want to work for success. They want to be successful. And we focus on the future, but they right now focusing on the we focus on the present actually, but they are focusing on the future. I'm just hearing some questions from my students that, so teacher, what should we do when we graduate from the university? Or they are even just talking about their plans about moving to the US in the future, etc. So Generation Y, spenders, but Generation Z, they are really savers. And Generation Y communicated through the text, but now they are communicating through images and symbols. They are just sending photos to each other by using WhatsApp, for example, rather than texting. And here are the key characteristics, but the important thing is, so they are looking for flexible stability. They want to experience that. This is what really matters for them. But where we are headed next then? So we are about to just move to the space. We are about to get on the spacecraft. So this is what we are experiencing, what we are hearing. But what about the education, if we just get back to the education context? Innovation and creativity. So our new generation, Generation Z, they want to be creative. They want to create their own. And they want, as they are questioning, they want to be involved in critical thinking because they have already started to question the system, everything. And innovation. When they combine creativity and critical thinking, they want to innovate something new. And this is what brings us to our end goal, the desired change. And how we can do that? So with the sustainable learning environment, when we look at these 2 photos, so what comes to your mind when you see them first? So 2 photos from 2 different classes. When we just look at the way students or the learners are sitting, different generations kind of, but yes? Uh-huh. So they're self-directed learners. we could say, or they are just benefiting technology as we see. But the important thing is, so they are working in a kind of group and they are communicating with each other. So they are not sitting independently. So they are trying to interact with each other. Which brings us to 21st century skills that we have been just exposed to a lot. When we just talk to anyone, so they are just talking about 21st century skills, but what they really are, so we need to look into the in details, like the communication skills. So we need to encourage our learners to communicate, but either orally or in a written way. Learning and innovation skills. So when we look at the earlier picture, like as we see, so they already know how to use the laptops and it's not enough for them. Information media and technology skills, yes, they are digital natives, they already know that. But the key point as we see here is like life and career skills. So how they can just transfer these skills into their workplace. So when we just look at these skills overall, critical thinking, so provoking them to think critically, problem solving, so we need to encourage them to solve the problems they experience. Creativity and innovation, producing what we are presenting, so they need to create their own. Adaptability, and here for the adaptability, the important thing is they need to adapt their daily life and also the learning environment. Collaboration, so yes, they can work in a group, they can do pair work, but what about creating something as a whole through collaboration? Communication, yes, in a written way. What about blending them in an oral way? And information sourcing and media literacy, in this case. So as a research-focused university, so we are encouraging our students to do research, conduct research, but do they, for example, baby boomers, you remember from the earlier generations, so they had only one book, for example, paper-based book to do research. But with this generation, they have a lot of things to do research, but do they really know how to deal with this, a lot of information? Yeah, okay. I expect you all to be, the teacher says, I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who will do exactly as I say. So we all know that as competent teachers here, we all know that all these skills, but to what extent we can just do that, or we can implement it into our lessons or the classes. So maybe we need to look at the characteristics of this new generation in a little bit more details. Again, this is just this photo is from our students. So they are self-directed learners. They want to control the way they learn. They want to know that. And in this case, they don't want to be disturbed by anyone else. And self-assessment. So as part of QME team, for example, we are working on the way we can just vary the way we are doing assessments. But what about self-assessment? So can they have a chance to do their own assessment? So do they need to know when or how they need to be approached by another one, or in what kind of ways they need to receive help? And more about Generation Z. This is what I'm experiencing right now with my students. They are very individual. They are angry. They are angry with the system. They are angry with the changes that we have even at the university. They are questioning. So they are questioning. We have, for example, proficiency exam, PAE. They are questioning why teacher, why do we have multiple choice questions? Why for incorrect answers cancel out one correct one, etc. They are questioning and they want to know the rationale. and they are bringing someone to account. So they want someone to be responsible for the situation. They are complaining, unfortunately, but they are craving for feedback. They really want to get feedback from the teachers. And they are more demanding than ever. I could easily see that within this 8 years. So they are demanding more and more extra exercises, more outside class activities. And the important thing is actually they're anxious for the future. So they are just thinking about what they are going to do in the future. So we have all these, but the first step is communicating with them. The way we communicate with our learners, not the communication within themselves, but with professor to learners. Again, we need to focus on how we can just transfer all these 21st century skills into the workplace. So here are the expectations from today's workplaces. Collaboration and teamwork, communication, either with email or just using Skype, online conferencing. So critical thinking and problem solving. And also creativity and innovation. So they shouldn't just copy and paste from others' work. So they need to create their own. So this is one photo, again, from today's workplace. So what do you see here? Like, what really just attracts you here the most? To me, for example, seeing these 3 different screens and a group of people sitting, as we are doing right now, in a room. As you see, all these people are, the people in the screens are from all around the world, and they are doing online conferencing. And they are interacting, they are trying to communicate, but as you see, they are also trying to talk to each other, but they are bringing or combining all their information, all their experiences together. And this one, yes, Rob.
Yes, well,
Thank you. Yeah.
The image actually struck me as being kind of ironic, because we have this like wonderful technology. It's like you could talk to anybody in the world, and they still make people come into the office to use it.
Unfortunately. But this is a good way just to communicate with people around the world. And here, what really strikes me here in this photo is like being multitaskers. So they have their laptops, okay, so they are eating something, they are drinking coffee, but they are also dealing with their smartphones. They are dealing with something different. So they are multitaskers. So maybe that's why we kind of try to encourage our learners to be multitaskers. And today's students and as educators, so we know all these skills, but all these skills just composes the tomorrow's workforce. So this is the transition actually. In an educational context, so we have the traditional classroom, but the 21st century classroom. So in a traditional classroom, yes, we have lecturing, whole group work, because unfortunately we cannot pay high attention to the individualistic behaviors, etc. But in a 21st century classroom, just conducting discussions, or we could even say the teacher acts as a facilitator rather than being the input provider. Collaboration, so collaborative works. Multitasking, so even in a 21st century classroom, learners are dealing with different tasks at a time. In my class, for example, so they are listening to me and they are looking at the board. They are even just checking their WhatsApp. They are doing everything at a time. Student-centered instruction, this is what we are all trying to do. But the key term, the new term I would say is differentiated instruction, which is the common one or the popular one nowadays, which is a kind of new version of individualized, personalized learning. So when we consider all these things, so we need to reimagine the education. So we need to redesign the education considering the unique characters of Generation Z. For this point, the important thing is like just matching the learning opportunities within their features. And the 21st century teacher roles, so because they need to be more critical thinkers, so teachers need to encourage them to be more curious and somehow enhancing motivation, intrinsic motivation actually. Because as you know, they are self-directed learners. They want to deal with how they learn. Establishing safe, supportive and positive learning environments. And the cultural awareness. And encouraging cooperation. Acting as the facilitator, not the information provider. And our students right now, generations that really I can feel that they want to feel appreciated. And communication. This is the important point. All these needs just brought us to kind of different approaches, I would say, like self-organizing learning environments, student response systems, game-based education, differentiated learning, exploring topics via augmented or virtual reality, personalized learning, and virtual school. Student response systems. This is a system which just helps instructors to get immediate feedback from the learners with the use of technology. As you can see, the teacher reflects the thing on the board through the computer or the laptop, and students just use their smartphones and directly answer the questions that the teacher asks. The best thing actually with the student response systems is like we can integrate them into our courses, into our classrooms as part of formative assessment. Formative assessment doesn't only mean just doing the quizzes, etc. We can even just evaluate or assess what we have already taught with the help of student response systems that we are just going to do within 2 or 3 minutes together. And game-based learning. Game-based learning, just before I continue, this is different from gamification. And for game-based learning, so using analogs or video games as core sources of learning material or cognitive actions. Okay, the benefits are like students are more engaged, so we can increase their attention span, so collaboration, and also competition. Our learners right now, they really like compete with each other. And how we can use them? For example, students decide to make a game about Great Depression and learn history in the process. Or, with the help of simulations, like SimCity, for example, or from Bridge Builder, students gain a systematic understanding of engineering problems by working with a limited budget and available materials. And this shows the letter grade distribution when game-based learning integrated into the classroom. As you could see, so there is a high increase. Undifferentiated instruction. So this means improving learning outcome with the help of individualized learning. And kind of just enhancing our students' motivation or making them more aware of their own learning progress. And augmented reality. So this is directly related to virtual reality. and this is also known as AR. So with the help of augmented reality, so we can just embed the kind of any information we want to have into any videos, any images, any walls, etc. How we can just use it in education? I'm using, for example, with the help of the application Orasma. So with this one, as you can see in this photo, so I could even just embed any answer key, any videos, or any pictures related to the topic within the document, within this paper, for example. And when they just scan it with the help of the application, they can just see it. And virtual learning, this is, we have a chance actually, a kind of with the help of our Moodle system. But in a virtual learning environment, students have a chance just to learn in a virtual world. Or we can think about Khan Academy or Coursera. So we can just even attend any courses we want, even when we are just studying at a university, etc. And how we can enrich our courses then to cater our students' needs better? Maybe by integrating Moodle into lessons with its different functions. So Moodle has really different functions like forum, glossary, wiki, etc. Integrating existing technological resources into learning and teaching process, student response systems, QR codes, video presentations, and game-based learning. So this is the kind of the applications or technological tools that our learners are exposed right now. Google, just iTunes, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, or even just sharing stories or Snapchat. And Moodle Forum, this is what I used in 2011 actually, when we had the old version of the Moodle. So, for example, this was a kind of outside class assignment for my students. They were at elementary level, by the way. The thing was, I just asked the question, and I just wanted to get their ideas about how people can help animals in Turkey. And the thing here is that student just said we can put cup of water in front of our doors, and her friends just said that. So they interacted with each other like saying, Irmak, you are living in a dormitory, so you cannot put a cup of water in front of your door. Like they really want to interact with each other. And student response systems. The common one is Kahoot, but it's also about to get old as well. We have quizzes, Socrative, Poll Everywhere, clickers, and QR codes. With the help of Socrative, for example, we even have shy students who don't want to share their ideas. So we just share we just respond our questions to them, and they try to answer the questions we ask. They can even just hide their identities. Like one screenshot from Socrative. So here, for example, we can see the identities of the students, but so the teacher directly reflects the question with the help of the projector, with the help of the computer, and then students, by using their smartphones, they can directly just respond to it. And in this way, the teacher has a chance to get immediate feedback. And the QR code. The best thing about QR code is we can embed any information that we want. And with this one, actually, as our rector, Abdullah Bey, suggests, when we just talked maybe in a recent time, our learners have a kind of learning portfolio, and maybe in the future they will have a chance to have QR coded diploma, which they can be integrated into their learning portfolio. In this way, they can have a chance to just how could I say, like, carry their diplomas everywhere they want within their learning portfolio. Why learning portfolio? Because which is very important when they're applying for any jobs. With the QR code again, the thing what the thing should be done is like scanning the code, and everything will be open. And video presentations. So sometimes we really do not have enough time in our lessons just to ask our students to do the presentation. So by the help of using YouTube or emails or any other tools, they can record their voices and they can just embed any pictures and they can just create their videos. They can share it with their peers, with their teachers, and they can even create QR codes. And when the instructors or when the teachers just like put the QR codes on the wall, whenever they want, they can just scan it and have a chance to watch their peers' presentations. And why video? Because more engaging visuals, and it is deliverable on multiple platforms. It can be embedded even in the QR codes. They can post on YouTube, Facebook, or any other platforms that they are using. And they stand out and they can have a chance to do the impression. And the thing is actually, do we really have Generation Z, or are we all Generation Z now? These are my parents, by the way. They're retired teachers. And I was reading a book, but they were using their smartphones. So this is the case right now. They are dealing with social media. They are just dealing with what kind of other things they can do with the Google search, etc. So thank you very much for that. That was the thing, and I'm sure more would come. And if you have any questions, you can just email me. So there are very, very different tools about all these things.